Lovely. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Year at a Glance session with Rachel, who is our head of MBA academic. If you have any questions for this session, please do use our Q&A box. We will get to those at the end. But over to you, Rachel.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So yes, as Sarah Lou mentioned, I'm Rachel Keeney. I'm the head of academic planning delivery on the MBA programme. I've been with the school about 8.5 years now, and all that time on the MBA programme. So I've seen it change and develop hugely and still get very excited by what we're offering. So I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you all today about what you may be signing up to from September. So just as a first off, this is the MBA programme team. These are the 13 individuals that are here to make the programme work for you. You can see on the left-hand side, you've got the academic team. That's my team. We look after everything that is worth a credit on the programme. So your courses, your electives, options that come later in the summer that I'll talk to you about a bit later. We've also then introduced in the last kind of 2 years, 18 months, a whole co-curricular team. And this has been a really exciting development for the team, because generally in the past, we've had to work both sides of the teams together. We've kind of had co-curricular as a little bit of an afterthought, unfortunately, to the academic. But now we've got Tom Parnell, who's heading up that team, and the rest of the group who really work on that, making the most of Oxford, and therefore making the MBA not just about the academics, but everything else, as it rightly should be for an MBA programme. Everything else that you can really get your teeth into whilst you're here. So that's our team. Got Matthew Conisby at the top as our programme director, my colleague Amy Major, who is our associate director, looks after us, and everyone that you would come into contact with should you choose to come and see us in September if you haven't already. So this is a little overview of the programme itself. At Oxford, we split our teaching into 3 terms. So we have a Michaelmas term, Hilary term, and Trinity term. And the way that we teach is designed specifically to focus on each term, wrap up the courses within the term, and move forward. What you'll see shortly when we move on to the next slide, where I've got more of an overview of the year, is that we focus a lot on getting you all into your core courses in the first term, and then slowly open up a bit more flexibility throughout the course of the year when we feel that you've got those core concepts in, and that allows you to start personalising your course a little bit more. So you can see here in Michaelmas, we have a pre-arrival period, which starts in June when you're added to our MBA portal, which I will touch on later. That's when you start to actually get a little bit involved, maybe signing up for co-curricular events. You can see what we need from you in terms of information so that we can get everything ready for you. And then you come, and your first 2 weeks in Oxford are launch, which is 2 weeks of really trying to settle you into Oxford, introduce you to the cohort, to your sections, to myself and my team, and Tom and his team, to the careers team, to everyone. It's a very full-on, very busy 2 weeks, but we try and make it fun. We introduce college dinners, debates at the Oxford Union, times, celebrations at the school itself, drinks receptions, barbecues, and just really try and embrace Oxford as your new home for the year and help you settle in. Give a little bit of free time as well, because we know how important it is to get life admin done as well, and we don't want to overwhelm you too much. Following on from launch, your core courses will then start being taught. So that's the first 6 courses take place in Michaelmas term, as well as an integrative module, which is called Global Rules of the Game. That also sits within Michaelmas term. You'll see in a minute, we have a block structure. So after each block, you'll have an assessment, and then you move on to your next subject. So that's very restricted in Michaelmas. So we tell you the courses that you're doing. We will put you into sections. So we teach in 4 sections, because we generally have a class of about 320 students. So we teach in sections of about 80. That's then further split down into study teams as well, that you can work with on readings, on case studies, having that kind of support network for you, as well as the first assessment being group presentations and then individual assignment, but it gives you the opportunity to really work with them. So we will put you into your sections, and we will put you into your study teams, and that's based on as much diversity as possible. We look at your nationality, your previous work experience, and try and make sure that you've got a well-rounded team. So when we then move into Hilary term, there's a little bit of flexibility opening up. So your previous sections from Michaelmas are gone because you will have selected for Go2, which is one of our projects. That stands for Global Opportunities and Threats, Oxford. So in Hilary term, as well as carrying on with your core courses, you do 2 projects. You will have Go2 in the first half of the term, and then you have EP, which is the entrepreneurship project, in the second half of the term. To allow you a bit more flexibility, as I said, Go2, you select a stream, which then becomes your section. So you've had a little more choice, but we will still put you into a study team within that stream. Then when you get to the second section of the term, you will be into your entrepreneurship project, which is completely self-selected. So you've put yourself into your study group, which again is a group of 5 to 6 people. You've chosen that group. So you're working with then like-minded people. It obviously has a lot less diversity sometimes because you've got that kind of mindset whilst you're working on your entrepreneurship project. So you're getting that level of flexibility as we go throughout the year. You also, and in the second block of Hilary term, pick your first elective. And then this gives you the opportunity to either look at whether you want to be specialising your MBA or looking at a more general approach. We specifically don't do specialised setup MBAs. We don't offer a finance MBA or a global industry MBA. We want you to be able to design your own course, and that's been done on purpose. You can look at specialising in finance electives, and therefore you only choose them. There will be the opportunity to take a finance elective in Hilary and then look at some further on in Trinity and the long vacation. But you can also go, you know what, I'm still exploring what I want to do. After my MBA, I'm going to take one finance elective. I'm going to look at a consulting elective. I'd like to look at a social impact elective, and give yourself a really wide range of interests and of teaching experiences. So you really start to get that opportunity through your first elective choice in Hilary. Then we move on to Trinity term, which is completely up to you. So you'll be taking 5 electives as well as finishing EP. So you're in your own choice of group for EP, as I said, and electives you pick whichever ones you want to do. In terms of, some people pick them obviously on what they're interested in. Some people pick it so that they can have a long weekend and not have to work on a Monday. Some people do it completely differently. So it's really up to you. And the only kind of sessions that everyone will be doing are ones related to EP that you're doing with your study team, with your EP team. So you're really flexible in that respect. And then you can see in long vacation, which is our summer part of the term, you're even freer. You don't even need to be in Oxford. So you've got more electives available that we run at the school, or you can be looking at doing an internship for credit, which is organised by yourselves. You can go out and find a company that you're interested in working in. It's a really great way to get your foot in the door and have it as part of credit for your course as well. Or you could do a strategic consulting project, which is a project with a minimum of 2 people in a group, and you are going and placed in a specific business that has a question or a challenge that they'd like you to address, and you work as consultant for a period of 6 weeks for that company within your group. And then the assessment for the internship and for the strategic consulting project are kind of a reflection on what you've done and how your MBA learnings really have helped that. And then we finally end, which always comes much too soon. The year flies by, unfortunately, and we end with capstone. And that's a week of celebrations. It's celebrating the fact that you've come to the end of the year. We have, again, similar to launch, we have debates, we have college dinners, we have a party, and you get the opportunity to invite your friends and family that have supported you across that year to come to Oxford and see where you've been learning and see the beautiful buildings and get to eat the lovely food. And then it ends in our end of course ceremony at the Sheldonian Theatre. The reason we put this ceremony on in capstone is because your individual graduations are organised by your colleges later on in the year. We don't want you to not be able to celebrate together. So we do a fake graduation or the end of course ceremony and just get all of you together so that you can be together as a class. We read out your names and give out the academic prizes. And it's just a really lovely way to mark the end of a really exciting and really hard year. And for all you guys to give yourself a pat on the back, and for us to get upset that you're leaving us and that we have to wait for another cohort to join us afterwards. So that's the rough idea of the year. I'm about to move on and show you so you can see more in terms of the courses. But alongside that, as you can see, the co-curricular activities continue throughout, different labs, different opportunities you can take whilst you're also learning in class, but also that we are continually trying to improve. We are going through an MBA review at the moment, so we're looking at what we look at generally is what core courses we have, what electives we offer. Should we work in the way that we work? So one of the things that we've done in the past is break our terms into blocks and all of that kind of stuff. So we're constantly looking for feedback. There are lots of feedback opportunities for students. We'll see, I'll touch on it a little bit more when we get to the student council, but we send out course evaluations. We really value the feedback from yourselves because we're obviously in a different position to you. So we need that to be able to constantly build and develop a really strong course. So just looking in slightly more detail there, you can see the year's schedule and how the block systems work for each of the courses. See the grey is the core courses, opens up with the yellow, which is when the electives and the different choices start to come through, and with the blue with the projects in the summer as well. And just a roundup of the numbers. So you have 9 core courses, 1 integrative module. You have 2 projects, which is the entrepreneurship project and global rules of the game, global opportunities threats Oxford go to. And then you take 6 electives, and then you could take an additional 2 electives, or you could do a strategic consulting project, or you could do an internship for credit. So that's the overall year plan. I'm often asked when I get to this stage if we can share this. So what I can do, again, is share this with Sarah Lou and her colleagues. So if you did want to have access to this and just get an idea, this is our current cohorts. So it might change slightly for September's cohort, but this gives you an idea of what the year looks like in terms of which weeks we're teaching, which weeks are off for holidays. So moving on a little bit to the class, we're incredibly proud of the class that we have here at Said. We have 313 students this academic year. We generally have around 320, we fluctuate, obviously, but of those 313, there are 64 nationalities represented, which is incredible. 93% of our students are international students, and 48, which is one of the highest gender equality percentages around, 48% of our students are female, which is a really great achievement, something that's been building each year. On average, we have students having 5 years work experience before they join us. So as I mentioned earlier, the cohort, because there are 312 of us, is split into 4 for teaching. That's because physically in the lecture theatres, we can't fit more than 84. So we move you into 4 sections so that you have a much more interactive teaching experience. We don't want a classroom of 312 people just being spoken to. One of the joys of Oxford is that there are lots of different ways of teaching, lots of different ways of learning. We use the tutorial system. We have lectures. We also have case study involvement, and just having that smaller group is a much better teaching experience. The sections are then split into your study teams. That's 5 or 6 students. And then, as I mentioned, you get new teams for Go-To and new teams again for EP. So whilst we're looking at the class, one of the most important parts of the class is the student council. That's our formal group that work with the admin side and with the students to make sure that we're giving you the best experience possible for your year. So you can see in this list all of the student council positions that we're running this year. Generally, those positions are pretty set. So they're the ones that we'll be advertising for next year, but the numbers of them may fluctuate slightly depending on each year. So this year we've got 2 welfare officers because with big cohort, then it was felt that more would be helpful. So we have, as I said, various ones to fit whatever the year really feels like. We also had some years where different ones are introduced, other ones where someone might not stand and therefore we've not held that position and someone else has had to pick it up within their role. But you can see generally it's headed up by 2 co-presidents, and they're the ones that are having the regular kind of weekly meetings with Matthew and with Amy, myself and Tom as well, just to make sure that we've got a pulse check on student feeling. We can address problems and positives really quickly. We can make sure everyone knows what's going on. You've got finance officer who really looks after the budgets. And then you've got some people that have to attend committees. So we've got the academic affairs officer who attends my course committee. That's where we're making the academic decisions for the programme, and we think it's really important to have students' voices in them. So we have them involved in that. You've got the student life officer who attends a committee called JSCC, which is the Joint Student Consultative Committee. And that's one made up of a student from every programme in Saïd Business School, discussing much more practical kind of student experience, the water coolers we've had, different study space, all kinds of practical things that you can get there. You can have other students, you can see what other students' experience is. But it's just so important to us to hear the student voices, to get that from you, so that we're not just dictating how we think the school, the course, the programme should be going. So these student council positions are hard work. There is a lot of time, some more than others. The co-presidents, I think, do put in a number of hours each week, but they are such vital roles that's something definitely worth considering if you want a leadership role within the programme. As well as the student council, we also have a number of different student groups which offer the opportunity to have a leadership role. We run a few different types of groups. So you've got alliances, OBNs, which is the Oxford Business Networks, and clubs. So the alliances and the OBNs are set groups. You can see the Oxford Africa Business Alliance and the Oxford Women Leadership Alliance. They are set every year. And again, with the OBNs that are based mostly around career areas rather than kind of, excuse me, rather than global areas. So they are set, they have budget, and they're fully supported by the school to run networking events, to offer all kinds of things. And then you've got the clubs, which again are formally recognised by the school, which have budget to help them support, but these are ones that can change each year. So generally we will advertise these as the clubs. So this is what our current cohort are doing. Once you get access to the portal, that again I'll touch on later, you'll be able to see these clubs, but throughout the course of the year, new clubs can be suggested if there's something that's of huge interest within your student cohort. So if you're now worried looking at that, oh my gosh, there's definitely not this is something that's really important we're missing, it's completely possible to set that up. We'll be able to support you, and you'll be able to move forward throughout the year on that. A lot of different OBNs and clubs do a lot of really good high profile events. So you've got the Oxford Africa Business Forum that happens once a year. It has incredible speakers, incredible incredible presenters, and that's organised by the Oxford Africa Business Alliance. And that's kind of those kind of things are things that we really are impressed with. We think is an opportunity for the school and for the students at the school to really put themselves out there and show you're not just an MBA student. Like these are some really exciting things that you have the opportunity to do. As I touched on, you can see here some adverts for two of the OBN events that have taken place this year. So not this year, last year. The Latin America Forum has now run for 3 to 4 years. That was a newer group that was introduced that's really run each year. So we're really proud of that. And then the Tech OBN, in conjunction with other clubs that have run, we're able to offer this year another event there. So it's a great chance for you if you would like to take a leadership role, but maybe the student council roles don't speak to you. This is a really good opportunity to be able to go out and do something different. We will hold some more specific events on questions about the OBNs and groups and clubs with Tom Parnell over the summer. So once you've got access to the MBA portal, if you do a pay deposit and you do decide that you're going to be joining us, then you will have access to that, and then you'll be able to learn a little bit more about that. He'll be able to talk you through exactly what's offered and what's involved and what you have the chance to be doing. So as well as providing some budget for OBNs and groups and those different opportunities, we're also very lucky that we're able to provide budgets for students who are interested in taking part in competitions or conferences, or to take courses that will really help their careers in the future. We have a very healthy budget that will allow students to go off, and as long as you can say that this is related to your career, we maybe I can't even think of something that might not be related to your career, but it needs to be kind of a valid competition conference that's showing Said in the best light. You can see some examples here, opportunities that have made us really proud of students where we've gone out and won some really big named competitions. So that's been very exciting. We like to put the money towards this. So as I said, it depends on what you're doing, but we've got a budget of about 400 or 250, depending on if it's a competition or a conference, for each student to be able to help support partway some funds towards that. You can work in teams, you can apply in teams. Some people have competitions if they're joining some of the co-curricular events. We will help with that as well. So we just want you to have as many opportunities as possible whilst you're in Oxford, which leads me on quite nicely to our next slide. So the experience. So far, the vast majority of what I've said, I think you could go, oh, but I could have this at this MBA, or I could have this at this MBA, and I could go anywhere and have this. So why is Oxford unique? Why is this the best experience? So what you can see there is one of our end of course ceremonies. So that's based at the Sheldonian Theatre with the Dean, with Kathy Harvey, who's our Associate Dean, Matthew Conisby, celebrating you guys. Why is Oxford special? Oxford is special when you walk into it, before you even get into anything else. The actual city of dreaming spires, as it's known, the buildings, the fact that it is one of the oldest universities in the world and has been teaching the best minds in the world for so many hundreds of years. And we want you to be part of that. The experience that we try and offer at Oxford, we don't want it to just feel like a generic MBA. That's why we offer the more general ones where you can specialise if you want to. We also like to offer the ceremonies. We have the Oxford Union. So the debating chamber is, you'll have at least 2 experiences over the course of the year where we've organised debates, but you automatically become a lifetime member as well by coming to Oxford, which means you can go and see any number of amazing people that speak at the Oxford Union. Sometimes controversy, sometimes not, but the fact that you've got all of these people that you might not have the opportunity to hear from, the speaker series that run, the people that come through on that. Again, all of these opportunities to absorb everything that you can within Oxford. The college system, you are all allocated a college. You can show your preference, but you are all associated with a college, which means that you've got a whole nother world outside of Said, although you will be with us at Said quite a lot of the time. You've got another world to explore within the college where you've got students from all the other courses at the university. So you don't just have to stay in your MBA bubble. You can meet the undergrads, you can meet the other DPhils, you can meet the other master's students, and really kind of embrace Oxford in that respect. So it's a very special place. And I think the programme itself, we're trying to make special as well. We've got Go-To, which doesn't run, obviously, it was designed by our previous dean, which is looking at how our Oxford students can solve world scale problems. We also offer a co-curricular programme where we're trying to get more of the Oxford experience. So we work with faculty who will take you out. We've had the Philharmonic Orchestra playing in Oxford. You've been able to go and see their practice session and learn how an orchestra is similar to a C-suite. We also go and look around Sheldonian with architects who are able to talk about more of the architect of Oxford. All these kind of special things that you wouldn't necessarily have anywhere else because they don't have those physical buildings and spaces that we just want as an extra. Oh, I've not just been sitting in a classroom, I've actually been out and I've absorbed some of the city you're within. So that's all kind of the extra experience that makes it that little bit more special. So some of the practical tips, how and when. So we launch the MBA portal in June, which is this month. So shortly, the MBA portal will be launched. This is your go-to area for everything pre-arrival, and then throughout the course of the year, everything co-curricular. We run a program, a virtual learning environment, called Canvas, and that's where all of your academic information is put on, and that's what you'll get closer to September when you're actually coming to Oxford. But for the summer period, for this pre-arrival period, the MBA portal is where you'll find all of the information on anything we need from you, any of the co-curricular things. So the careers team are on there. The different labs that are run by different areas of the school are all advertised on there. That's where you can apply, you can learn more about them. All that kind of stuff is hosted on that. So that will go live this month. So keep an eye on for that. You'll then start to have the opportunity to apply for the leadership positions I mentioned earlier. So the alliances will start to open up in July. And you normally have until the first part of launch to be able to apply for that. And then there's an interview process before those chairs are put into position. And the student council, again, generally opens in July, but you have until the end of launch to be able to apply for that, which gives you the opportunity to actually meet your fellow students in person, really work with them, see who you think would be good for those roles. And then we run pitch sessions where you have 1 minute to stand on the stage and tell us why you are going to be the best person for the job. And then that's done through a democratic voting system for your fellow students. And the OBNs and the clubs work in that same way, where there's a pitching session and people are then able to vote for who they would like to be running the cohort. So I think before I overwhelm with the information, that is what I will talk at you for the first half hour. I can see we've got lots of questions now, so I'm just going to start working through that. But thank you very much for listening to me. I have said to Sarah Lou, I will work through as many questions as I can in the time that we've got. If you do think of any other questions afterwards, or if I don't have a chance to get to your question right now, please do email me. Sarah Lou will be able to share my email address with you. But just drop me an email and I'll be able to get back to you and just let you know. So I don't want anyone to think that they're being ignored and they haven't had the chance to ask anything. So do let me know if you need to. So having a look at some of the questions that we've got. When exactly do 2 preparation weeks take place? So I'm going to assume that that is in relation to launch. So those 2 weeks, this coming year will start on the 18th of September. I think that's the Monday. So it's 2 weeks from the 18th of September is when the programme formally starts. That's when you become a student. What we do have is a huge variety in how people approach that. So some people will be arriving on the Saturday, Sunday, and then they'll be having Monday as their first day as an MBA. Some people have the opportunity to not be working or be engaged in anything else over the summer, so they move a little bit sooner and have a bit more time to settle into Oxford. But yeah, it's generally, I need to check my calendar, but I think it's the 18th of September is the Monday this week, and that's the 2 weeks that run before we hit October, which is when your core course teaching starts. How many total electives can you choose? So in total, we offer a huge array of electives. I think we've got well over 40 electives. In terms of how many you choose 1 elective in Hilary term, and that's out of 3 that we offer. And then in Trinity term, you choose 5 electives. And then in the summer, you need to have 2 additional credits. So that could be 2 more electives, or an internship for credit is worth 2 credits, and a strategic consulting project is worth 2 credits. So in total, everyone has to do 6 electives. You could take 8 electives, or you could do 6, and then one of those summer projects. Next one. How long are the summer electives? An alum told me that an elective lasts for a week, and do all electives occur concurrently? So summer electives, all electives are 24 hours. The way that it works in the summer, instead of being over a 4-week block like we have in the other term times, they're generally taught in 2-week blocks instead. We then have to rely a little bit on when the faculty are available within that. Some are taught over the whole of the 2 weeks. So you might just have 1 session a day and for 2 weeks. Some are taught much more tightly. So we have electives that run morning and afternoon just across 4 days. And then that's done. What we do within each of these 2-week blocks is make sure you can do 2 credits. So that means that if you do choose to do electives over the summer, you have the opportunity to complete all of the credits that you need to within just 1 summer elective block. Obviously, it then depends on your interests and which electives you're interested in. It might be that they're in different blocks, but that does then allow you to just stay. Some people need to leave earlier, so mid-July, so you could finish the course. I'm going to, whilst I'm still screen sharing, just pop back to the timeline because I think it normally helps So as you can see here, each of the teaching blocks over the summer, you've got the 2 weeks, and it just means that you could then be free for the rest of the summer if you take your credits in the first block, or if you're interested in doing something else over the summer and then coming back at the end of August before capstone, you could come and do your credits in that way. So yes, credits generally will last a week or those 2 weeks, depending on how they're scheduled specifically. So another person said, an alumnus said you have some company connections in Africa prepared for student internship. That very much depends. So we do have some company connections in Africa. We run something that I haven't mentioned. We do run international electives as well. You can see again on this year planner, the blue at the start of Trinity term, we run 3 international electives. Unfortunately, we were only able to run 2 this academic year, but we will be back up to 3 next year. So we run 1 in Cape Town, we run 1 in London, and we will be introducing a new one in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. So we have company connections in Cape Town. We previously ran it in Johannesburg. So we do in that respect. What we say for student internships is that they are student-led. So we won't be finding internships and advertising them to you. You can find internships via the careers team, and then you can apply to them and see if they're eligible for internship for credit. But the majority of students will go out, apply for general internships that have been advertised through the companies, and then work with them to make it eligible for the internship for credit, which just has some kind of eligibility in terms of it has to be a certain length of time, and it needs to have a certain level of seniority and you working with senior managers. We don't just want you making coffee and photocopying, because we don't think that's a good use of your MBA and your year. So we do have some company connections in Africa, but in terms of organising a student internship, that is on the individual students, as a normal internship would be, to apply for, sell yourself as best possible, and to make sure you're in a company that you think you're going to get the most out of. Right, next. Based on the MBA schedule, we can choose 3 summer electives. No, so it's 2 summer electives, sorry. You can just pick, you don't have to do each of those elective blocks. So you could do 2 in 1 week, as I said. You could split them over 2 of those 3 weeks. So it's 2 credits that you take over the summer. For the strategic consulting project, what are the pipelines of company choices? What are the end deliverables? So strategic consulting projects do change year on year. We often have some companies reach out to us that are interested in a specific issue, and then our projects team will work with them to tie up a deliverable. The deliverables completely depend on the company. It might be that they've gone, we feel our marketing isn't so great at this time. This is something we want to have a whole new marketing strategy put together. And our students will go as a team and they'll go and work sometimes in the company based, or whether they're happy to do it remote, or could be all around the world. They work on that problem to present a solution to the company. In terms of then making it an academic event, you then write a reflection piece on the project itself, and how that's been helped by your MBA learning and what you've gained out of it. So that's an essay that you then submit at the end of it. That's one strategic consulting project. We actually run 3 different types. So I'm going to over confuse people. I'm sorry about this. So we run those ones where a company has come to us, they've got a problem, this is what they want to do. Another one is if a student specifically wants to work with a company and brings them in themselves. So that's a student-led strategic consulting project. Very similar way, but it's just that rather than us going out to the company or the company coming, the student has been our link there. And another thing that we've introduced in the last few years is something called EP to SCP, which is people that want to work for a longer period on their entrepreneurship project. So if you felt whilst you've worked on it that actually this is a really viable company that you've made, and actually you want to take this forward, you can take your EP forward and work as a project with other members of the team. You can't do this on your own. It does need to be a group of at least 2. And you can go and work on that as a strategic consulting project. So that is another opportunity. If you are really getting the entrepreneur bug and you want to just keep on working on that because you see some real potential in EP, that's another chance for you to take that forward. So I hope that helps. So I think I've touched on this. June opens some access to the pre-MBA. So that's the portal, the MBA portal that I mentioned. What's on that? You'll find lots of information. We'll send some surveys out through there. So we need to know as little things as, how would you like your name to appear on a name badge? Are you going to be bringing partners and children with you? Do you have any dietary requirements? But you'll also get information from the careers team, who I believe you'll be meeting this weekend if you haven't met them already today. You'll also get information from people that run the different labs, the impact lab, the finance lab, the asset management masterclass, all of these different things. That's where all of that information is. So that's your one-stop shop before you come to Oxford to get all of the information that you need. We'll be communicating through it. Different information will kind of be added each week as we go, just so we don't completely overwhelm you when you're first added in. But that's kind of I would recommend being intimately knowledgeable on MBA portal, just so you really know what to expect by the time you get here. Do you also have company connections to student internships anywhere else than off Africa? Yeah, so the careers team are really good places to work with for internships. So they will have any of the internships that they're advertising on their portal, which is called Oscar. Anything that they put on there, you're welcome to apply for. They'll have full-time jobs for later on in the year, but internships are on there as well. But mostly they do expect you, as with your full-time jobs at the end of the program, they expect you to be the ones that are going out and finding the internships. We don't kind of have it where we will place you in an internship. You have to apply as an individual and get accepted and be the best candidate for an internship, because it's the real world. And that's what we want to reflect here. And you need to be the best person for the job. So that's all down to you to secure these roles. But the careers team are there and can help with what they're offering already. Are the clubs specific to SBS or overall Oxford? Additionally, can we partake in any number of OBN's clubs alliances, or is there a cap? Yes, so these clubs and groups that I showed are SBS specific. So they're ones from the MBA program where the MBAs run them. What you can do if you're running big events, you are more than welcome to offer spaces, to sell tickets or offer spaces to anyone outside the university as well, and other students. We're an open door department, so we welcome you to be able to work with other people, but those groups are MBA and the group members are MBA students. You can absolutely still join Oxford University groups. When you first hear in launch, and then when you start to get Freshers Week at the university, you can go and see all of the other groups that are available. You are as welcome to join them as anyone else at Oxford University. There's also no cap in terms of you joining as members, the alliances, groups and OBNs. What we do cap is you having a leadership role in them. So we wouldn't want you to be a leader of an OBN and a group and an alliance, because it's too much in terms of you being able to take on that, give credit to each of those groups, as well as doing your full academic course. So if it comes to the pitching session and you do want to stand for maybe a student council role and a couple of alliances, you are very welcome to pitch for those, but you would need to select one leadership role if you were successful in being voted in for multiple ones, because it's just being realistic with your time. I know a lot of MBA students that throw themselves in, very much so, in the first couple of weeks of launch, and then it could be overwhelming. I think you need to settle in and be realistic in what you can do. You can always add. It's a lot harder to take things away later on. But no, join as many groups as you'd like, get as involved as you'd like, but just be aware of what you're taking on in terms of leaderships. There is, so on that same note, so OBNs and clubs are open to all. You just put your name down, say that you're interested. There is no application as such. To be a member, you're just a member. It's only those people pitching for the leadership positions that we need to see present and then are voted in. Sorry, which then links to a question about when do the elections for the OBNs and the clubs take place. So and the first kind of week of Michaelmas term. So we get through launch, the applications close, and then the pitch sessions take place. This is mostly because for the student council, so it all runs alongside each other. For the student council, we need people to be in position because the first course committee comes up in kind of the week 5 of Michaelmas. So people need to be in position to be able to actually start to work. It's not normally until kind of the end of Michaelmas term that the OBNs and the clubs are really taking shape and able to start planning good events. So the most time possible, we try and get those pitches in early so that you can really make the most out of the year. Can you elaborate on the system to register elective subjects? Do you use a bidding system? Yes, so we use something called a student option system, or SOS for short. Read into that what you will. But we have a bidding system. You are allocated 100 points, and that's for you to bid on 5 electives. So this is Trinity term. You bid those points on the electives, and what we then use is those bidding points to determine the people that get into class. We offer, I think it's generally around 38 electives over Trinity term. So historically, there are a couple that are oversubscribed each year. There are the vast majority of ones which are not oversubscribed. Should an elective be oversubscribed, we will look to the bidding points to see who is successfully allocated. And obviously those that have bid more points will be more likely to get into the course depending on how much space there is. We also spend a lot of time going to faculty, asking if they'll increase the class size, working with them to get as many people as possible into the courses so that you're not disappointed. And generally we have a very small number of people that might not get one, and in very bad cases might not get 2 of their first choices. But then there's a lot of other flexibility, a lot of other really great courses and really great professors that you'll be able to work with. But yes, it is on a bidding system. It's not first come, first serve. It's open for a certain amount of time, and you can then kind of work through that as a cohort, see what might be popular, work together on it, and put your courses in. Do the same professors take classes across all 4 sections? So that actually differs depending on the courses. So in some courses, we will have 4 professors, and one will take kind of the first lecture for all of the different sections. And in some, we have 2 professors, and one of them will teach half the class, so 2 of the sections, and one will teach the other 2 sections. It does depend on the different courses. There are other courses when it gets to electives, obviously, where it's just one professor and they take all of the sessions. But we try and make sure there's a huge parity. So the course evaluations also ask you about the faculty. You can feed back on what's really worked, what maybe hasn't worked, and we make sure that we're constantly trying to get best faculty from Said to be with the MBA programme. Do strategic consulting projects happen in Oxford only, or anywhere in the UK or world? So we've actually had people, we've had Africa and America and Oxford and London, from kind of the Museum of Natural History in Oxford over, as I said, Africa. They can happen anywhere. It depends on where the company base is that we are working with. But again, when it comes to the student-led strategic consulting projects, if you've got a company that you want to work with, it could be based anywhere. There are no rules from us that state that it has to be in Oxford. So it doesn't kind of limit it in any way. If you do want to work elsewhere, then you are welcome to do so. The world is your oyster. How are the leaders of the OBNs decided? How are the general members of the OBNs decided? Can anyone join? So the leaders are through a pitch. So you have your 1-minute pitch session. Sorry, excuse me. And that will be with the co-chairs that you want to stand with. And then it's done through voting. And because we think it's only fair that you vote for the OBNs that you're interested in joining, there is a survey. Anyone that's interested in joining is able to show that. And then it's only if you've said you will join the OBN that you're able to vote for who the co-chairs will be for that OBN. So it's all through a survey. Everyone is allowed to apply for those leadership roles if they'd like to. You can join any OBN. You can stand for leadership role for any OBN, but you would only be able to take one forward. and the general members are literally just you show your interest in it, and then you'll become your email address and your name is given to the new co-chair so that they know who wants to be part of their OBN. And again, as a member, you can be as active or inactive as you want. You can attend the groups, you could just wait for round robin emails. Co-chairs, we do expect to be very active and to be making the OBN, the groups, the alliances as useful as possible for that year that you're with us. Are the core courses and electives taught via books or online material? So this again is a mix. We don't like to keep anything too similar and boring. There is a mix of physical books that are available in the library. We've got the Sainsbury Library based at Oxford Said. There will be other ones which could be e-books. There are other ones which are case studies that we've purchased, so you go through online to find the cases that we've purchased, so through Harvard Business School or through various other places, and you'll read them online. There are occasionally videos that if our faculty have done asynchronous videos that you could watch before the next session. This is all held on our Canvas, which is the virtual learning environment. Each course has their own site, and then you can work through that and see what's required of you before the start of this lecture, after the lecture, during the lecture, and make sure you're as prepared as possible. Each Canvas site will also show the required readings, the stuff that you have to do before the sessions, and then any further supplementary readings that if you have time you'd like to delve a bit deeper into the subject, that's all there. How many hours per day or week are the lessons, and what time do they start? So general rule, the first lectures will start at 9 o'clock, and we have teaching 3-hour blocks, so you've got 9 till 12:15 because there's a break in the middle, and then you've got 1:30 till 4:45, and again there's a break in the middle. That isn't every single day. We teach Monday to Thursday, and we keep Friday for co-curricular events. So you've got the careers team, you've got the entrepreneurship centre, the Scholes Centre, all of these extra co-curricular, a lot of the labs and stuff that take place, they stay on Friday, and then over the weekend we teach Monday to Thursday. You might have 6 hours of teaching in a day. You might have 3 hours in an afternoon off, and in addition to that you then have support classes, which are completely optional, but if you feel like you need a little bit more help in some of those subjects, the quant courses do generally offer support classes, and they normally run at the end of the day and normally about an hour and a half. So yes, 9 o'clock start, 4:45 finish mostly for the day, and then you've got your lunch and a couple of tea breaks as well. Each course that you have, you'll have 2 3-hour sessions in the week. So we generally run 3 courses, as you can see from the schedule that's still up there. So you'll have 6 hours for each of those courses, so that gives you 18 hours generally of our in-classroom teaching. Obviously on top of that, you've then got the readings that you're needing to do, the preparation work, case studies, working with your study team on presentations and stuff. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea. It's quite full on. We hear that it's quite full on. So that's why I mentioned earlier about just being a little bit realistic about all the co-curricular events and activities you might want to sign up to as well, whilst making sure, obviously, because I'm academic side of the programme, I think that's the most important bit. So whilst making sure you're in the classroom and you're learning and you're getting the MBA that you come to Oxford for, just being realistic about how much you can do outside of the classroom as well. Are there selection criteria for electives? So I think that links back obviously to the bidding system. So the majority of students will get any elective that they choose based on the bidding points. It might be that you don't because you haven't bid enough and the course is oversubscribed. The vast majority of students will get the electives that they would like. Are EPs mandatory or is it optional in Hilary and Trinity? No, so EP is part of the core expectation of the programme. So you will all do the entrepreneurship project. It does run across consistently across the end of Hilary term, the second block of Hilary term, the first block of Trinity term. So everyone will do EP. It's part of the core teaching alongside the other programmes that are running at the same time. You see, Do we get stipends during the SEP? Are we reimbursed for travel and accommodation costs? So this really depends on the company that you're doing the SEP with. Some of them are paid, the company will pay you. Some of them, the company will pay travel and accommodation, but not necessarily for the work. Other ones might be unpaid. It completely depends, and you will be advised of all of that before you make your choices for the summer. So before you say, I definitely want to do an SEP, you would be able to see each of the SEPs there, and you then put your preference down. And if you would like to have your preference based on whether you're paid as well, then that's something to take into consideration. What we do is, if you are taking your entrepreneurship project forward as an SEP, we appreciate that you won't be paid because you're setting up a new venture. So we do offer some help for people doing the EP to SEP option, but not for the others that are working for external companies. But we don't want people to feel that they can't take their own EP project forward because of financial issues. So there is a small stipend for those students. Oh, this is a good question that often comes up. Can you audit classes at other departments if you manage to align it with the timetable? Yes, is the easy answer. So you are very welcome. You will need to reach out to the other departments with courses that you're interested in, as one of the joys of Oxford University is that each department, each college is very independent. So the audit policies that we have on the MBA programme are not the same as the ones that you'll find in, for example, computer science or history or physics. So if there are courses that you think would be really interesting, and I think one of the terms that it works really well in is Trinity term, because you've got so much more flexibility in your calendar, please reach out to the departments, say who you are, say what you're interested in, have a look at the websites so that you can see what's on offer there, and ask to audit. A lot of students do have that opportunity. What we can't do, sadly, is then give you credit for it on the MBA, because there's a very strict process at the university for getting any courses, specific electives, core courses approved for the programme. But you can audit to your heart's content. You can also audit MBA courses that you're not taking for credit. So when it gets to the electives, you can only obviously take 5 in Trinity term, but if there are others that have space still left and you are interested in, reach out to the MBA admin team and we can talk to you about auditing that, and we can make sure that you're learning as much as possible and really making the most. That's one of the good questions that I like, because you want to make the most. You're going to be here for a year. You have the best minds are in Oxford. They're the people you want to learn from. So yes, take every opportunity you can to soak it up like a sponge. Brilliant question, thank you. What is the process for taking electives at other departments? So as I said, it completely depends on the department. If you need to pay extra for it, again, all very much dependent on the department. So do a little bit of detective work, have a look at the websites, see if you can find courses that are of specific interest to you, reach out to them and see what their policy is, explain that you're an MBA student, all of this kind of stuff, and they will tell you if there is a course fee. From the MBA point of view, you will not be charged to audit other MBA courses, but we do charge external people. So it might be that other departments will charge you. We would charge other students from different departments and externals or DPhils or anything like that. So there might be a small charge at other courses, but it really depends on the department that you're talking to. Are the summer classes self-guided study or in person? So they're all in person. The whole MBA is in person. We're not doing hybrid teaching anymore. We're not doing online. For the summer courses, you are, as with the rest of the course, you're expected to be bottoms on seats in the classroom for the teaching. We think, especially having gone through what we went through with COVID, we know that the best experience for students is being in the classroom, not only with the faculty, but with other students. One of the biggest things that we get is when there is low attendance, the other students are more annoyed than faculty and by admin or anyone else, because you get so much learning from each other. So many students at the end of the year will go, I learned so much in the classroom, but it wasn't even from the faculty. The idea that we make our sections and our study teams as diverse as possible means that you really get the chance to learn from the other students that are going to be with you. If you have a really strong accounting background but don't know anything about marketing, being in a classroom, being taught marketing and having a marketer with maybe 10 years work experience is going to be so beneficial to you. So again, with summer, you're sitting in the classroom with other students and you're learning from them and the faculty. So no, it's not online and it's not self-paced. It is all of these are in person in the lecture theatre. So do you know what the most popular or very popular elective subjects are? This comes up every year, and generally prior to our current cohort, I would have told you with complete confidence, but without being kind of not giving you an answer, this cohort have gone completely off the rails in the nicest possible way, and have picked completely different subjects. So it really does differ year on year. So I wouldn't want to say, well, you're not going to get this elective without bidding really high, because actually this cohort for the first time in my 8.5 years haven't filled up negotiations. So negotiations generally, I would say, really popular course. That is one that sometimes not everyone gets onto. And yet this year we've part filled some of the streams of negotiation that we've done, and it's not been full at all. And then other courses where we've had kind of 12 people doing it historically, we've suddenly got 100 doing it. So it's so dependent on the class. What did happen with our 1920 cohort is that they all spoke offline. They did a spreadsheet, and people put in the electives they're interested in, and then it gave the cohort the ability to see where more challenging electives may be and which they might need to do a bit more conscious bidding on. So that's something to think about, because it really does change year on year depending on your own experience and what the cohort are interested in. And I think we're only going to see that more and more. So I don't want to tell you and it be completely different and you think, oh, but that was that session back in June that Rachel said where this is going to be it, and it's not that. There are loads more questions, and I'm really sorry I'm not going to get to them because we're only 2 minutes away from 4, and I don't want to be the one that knocks your whole virtual experience weekend off piste. So I will look at one more before I hand you back to Sarah Lou. Let me see what else. So the assessment, this is one. What is the assessment and examination process for each term? So assessment is done for each course. So you can see again in the year planner where the assessment weeks sit. We do have a mix of assessments. So there are presentations you'll do. There are individual assignments that you submit online. There are group assignments. There are individual presentations, group presentations. We do have some in-person exams where you have to wear your full Oxford outfit and go and sit in exam schools. There's a huge variety of assessment, but what we generally do is that you have the teaching for the block, and then you have the assessment, and then you move on to the next teaching and the next assessment. But it is that each course, each faculty member will choose the way in which they want to assess the course. So it depends, but we have a huge mix, which hopefully then means that people that prefer exams to coursework have the opportunity to do exams. People that prefer coursework to exams have the opportunity to do the coursework, groups, not groups, etc. So it's a huge variety of things. And with that, I know there are still questions. I'm very sorry I haven't answered them, but please do reach out to Sarah Lou and get my email address, and I will respond to you. Not today, because technically today is my day off, but when I'm back in the office on Monday, I will be able to respond to you and answer your questions. But thank you so much, and thank you for your involvement and all the questions. They're really good. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And yes, it is her day off. So thank you, Rachel, for joining us today. We really do appreciate your time. That was super informative. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. You had really good and a lot of questions as well. But I have put her email in our chat. So if you do want to reach out to Rachel, you can do so. But also, if you have any other queries or anyone that you didn't get to connect with this week, please do reach out to the MBA team. Our email is oxfordmba@sbs, and you are more than welcome to just reach out to us, and we will try and connect you or answer any of your questions. But that's it. Rachel was our last session. So we appreciate you, Rach, and have a good day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Take care, everyone, and hopefully see you in September. Bye.